real generic, sort of in the middle. Ultimately, what we're talking about is organizational clout, no matter what your internal role is through this one. And then here, it's actually going to be based on research I did in my next book coming out this spring on influence power rating. Sorry, I can't help myself. But anyway, is basically what this talks about. I want to talk to, oh, great, thank you, to the IT folks for a minute. What happens is that IT, like any internal service organization, which would include finance, would include human resources, the goal of every internal group at the end of the day, you hear them all say the same thing. As a former CIO, I said it for years. You want to have a seat at the decision-making table. You know, how do you get involved in the business side of it and not basically being a service provider? I've had CIOs say to me, in fact, one firm many years ago, I was given an idea how long ago this was, I was the data processing manager. Said I got some great ideas that we can do to enhance the technology here. And what he said to me was, he said, no, just keep things running. You know, I look at you as an internal service organization like janitorial services. So, you know, from then forward, certainly it's different now. But the thing is that in your role within IT, if you think about it, is IT plays 4 types of roles for the organization. Again, sorry for no PowerPoint tonight. They don't have one. What I'm looking at is the middle of the first page here, if you want to use it. The first is IT is a utility provider. You know, just like the electric company, you know, keep up the systems, keep up email, keep up the internet access, etc. So let me ask you a question. How many people use an alarm clock to wake up this morning? Or some facsimile thereof? Okay, I'll pick on you if I could. When the alarm went off this morning, did you run over to your telephone, your cell phone, pick it up, call the electric company and thank them for having the power on all night so that you could go to work today and then come tonight for my words of wit and wisdom?
Not at all.
No, no one ever did that, right? Let me ask everybody another question here, bringing it back into the office. If you came in early on, say, a Thursday morning, had to send some emails, look into the systems a couple of times, maybe do a couple of Google searches, did you then call IT and thank them for having email up all day on your behalf? No. When do you talk to the electric company? 1 of 2 times. The power goes out of the bills. Your bills are too high. So when do most people talk to IT? When something breaks. So that's level 1. You're a service provider. Level 2 is on-demand servicing. That's help desk. Right? You ever call GrubSpot to get a pizza delivered to your home? That's the equivalent of the eating version of help desk. So that's the second thing that IT does. First, utility. Again, second one is on-demand processing or on-demand servicing. The third is general contracting. It could be you have a plumber come to your house to update a bathroom, put a garage on the front, put a deck on the back, implement a CRM system. I don't think you do that one at home, just in case. But what is that? That idea of general contracting brought in is project management. And only if you do all 3 of those right, do you have a chance of being a thought leader and having a seat at the decision-making table within a business organization. Think what happens to senior IT people, and then I'll wide it out for those not in IT. All right, is that I'm really excited. Let's say I'm the head of, I'm the manager of financial systems. And I go over to the CFO. Congratulations, you're CFO now. And we're strategizing over should we have a new budgeting system, how we should be handling all this high-level stuff. And then on the way out, Jennifer says to me, oh, Eric, my admin, their printer cartridge is out. Can you get that fixed for me? Oh, sure thing. So what happens is that for those of you, again, in IT or any internal service role, you have to be able to differentiate these 4. Because here I'm all, excited talking about, the future of financial systems and implementing the cloud. And then the last thing that Jennifer remembers from our conversation is I'm getting a new printer cartridge for her admin assistant. So these are the things that IT need to do. Now the interesting thing about this is if you can't do, again, level 1 and level 2, everyone know what I mean by that from the sheet? If you can't do level 1 and level 2 well, then you'll never get to do anything else. Imagine that there's a new application that, I come to you as the CEO, now you're the CFO. Have you met the other CFO, Jennifer?
No, I replaced her.
All right. Well, careful, because, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so, I come to you and I say, hey, I have this great idea for a new budgeting system that we can integrate into the Oracle financials. And what's going to happen if he looks at me and says, well, that's really nice, but you know what? Can you keep the internet up for like maybe a whole day in a row? When you get that stuff going, maybe we'll get the rest figured out. So if I don't get 1 and 2 right, then what is my organizational clout? 0. Do you know the help desks that most often get outsourced to third-party companies? Those that don't do it well. Sometimes it's finance-based, just for that, but very often they're very sorry that they did it. So anyway, questions sort of on this as a process. So I'm going to now genericize this for people in general, for your own jobs. Is what are those things, everybody's work, if you think about it, there are those things that you have to do as part of your job. That you don't get any credit for, but you get in trouble if you don't do it. Anyone ever fill out an expense report for a trip they took? If you did it right and all the numbers added up, and you had all the receipts properly taped to the page, does the CFO run down to your office and ask if you'd like to fill the new treasurer's role? No. What happens if you don't do it? You don't get paid, and you get in trouble for it. They say, oh, it's after 90 days, we're not even going to give you the money. So everybody's job, sort of tying that generically, sort of to what this was. Which one was it? This one. What this is let's now tie it to you and the things you want to do. Everyone has 3 roles in their job, whether they're the janitor or the CEO. What those 3 roles are is your have-to-dos, hired-to-dos, and want-to-dos. So now let's use this same idea, extrapolate from this, where organizationally you got to do the stuff you got to do in order to move up. Where you have-to-dos is like your status report. What happens if you don't do your status report on time? You get dinged? You get in trouble for it? There are those process tasks that are just sort of part of the job. If you're a manager of some level, try not doing the performance, people's annual performance reviews one year, just because you don't have the time. See how that goes. You won't have to worry about doing them anymore the next year, that's for sure. All right, but those are the have-to-dos. You don't get credit for them, but if you don't do them, you get in trouble. Then there's the hired-to-dos. There's a lot of that going on tonight. Oh, what do you do? They don't say, well, first I have to do the expense reports and fill out status reports. They say, I'm a business analyst, I'm a financial planner, I'm a whatever it might be. That's the hired-to-do. Now, if you don't get in trouble by not doing the things that you shouldn't have done, right? By just doing those, sort of the utility-related stuff, back to the other example. And if you do a good job at the thing that you were specifically hired to do, whatever that may be in your particular vocation, then the next thing you get to do is the wanna-dos. What the wanna-dos are, there should be a Xanadu, but there's not. I gotta come up with a 4th one. So that's maybe where you go on vacation if you do the first 3 right. But what your wanna-dos are those things that you wanna do in order to expand your skill set, gain additional visibility, through the organization, and prepare you for promotion. So for example, you have an individual contributor who'd love to be a manager. A wanna-do for someone in that role is maybe doing analyzing the monthly budget versus actual report, because they want to be a cost center manager. Anybody do budget versus actual reports every month because they're cost center managers? All right? Don't you go for those? Yes? So let me ask you this. Don't you wake up on the last Friday of the fiscal month and go, yes, I can't wait to get my report today so I can analyze my budget versus my actual?
Actually, I do.
No. You do?
No.
Keep away from him. No. No, of course not. So for him, as a cost center manager, is comparing your budget versus actual, that's a have to do. You don't do it, you get in trouble, if your budget gets out of whack. But let's say me, I want to be a cost center manager one time. So what's that for me? That's a want to do. So now start putting these 2 things together. If I do a good job at what I was hired to do, maybe what he can do as my manager is give to me the budget versus actual report. Because maybe his have to do is my want to do. So that's another way to start considering this, of what are those things where you have to be seen as competent and successful in order to be allowed to do those things that let you move up professionally. So sort of questions on, now you mentioned digital transformation. Let me tie that just for 1 minute on that topic, and then I'm enough about talking about organizational things. I'm going to start talking about increasing your influence power. How's that sound? I actually did a class for Marvel Comics in New York about a month ago, and I'm sitting there in the back of in the conference room, and there's like 20 of us around a table, and I'm teaching whatever the topic was, and there's a full-size picture of Thor. What's the guy's name who plays Thor?
Chris Hemsworth.
What is it?
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth, standing there like this, a full-size character of him, like he's throwing this at me. He's got an upside-down Spider-Man in the corner of the room looking over. It was quite interesting. I decided I needed my own superpower. So what it is it's developing speeches no one wants to hear. Anyway, for those of you who do interested in digital transformations, everyone familiar with the term? All right, think about it. What role can you play personally? Or if you're in IT, your IT organization can play in digital transformation. That's going to be based on 2 factors. Your organizational clout, which is what? Your influence. It's exactly from an organizational perspective, the stuff we were talking about here. And from a personal level, it's your level of influence. How are you looked at personally inside the firm? So it's a matter of that. If you think of it like, well, it's a 4 square, you can't see it, we don't have a PowerPoint. But think of it that way, is that one of the 2 axes is clout/influence. Across the bottom is innovation. Anyone involved in innovation? Doing things like design thinking, creating new systems, things along that line? Okay, so that whole world there's a certain level of, say, innovation and creativity that goes with it. When you combine your clout with your ability to innovate, that defines your specific personal role as well as your organization's role in digital transformation. If you have no clout, in other words, you can't get the internet working, kind of thing, and you're not particularly imaginative and don't come up with good ideas, you're an observer. How many groups within your company do you see just sit back and look at all the cool stuff being done and aren't involved in it? That's them. Then where you see, for example, back to IT for a moment, is where where most IT firms are, is they're incredible at execution. Not executing people, I mean doing a really good job at whatever it is that they do. Well, you're a tough crowd. But anyway, is that if you're great at execution, but you're not too innovative, then what you are is you're an implementer. I was talking to someone earlier today about being a project manager. Project management is the sort of the quintessential implementer. The decisions are made on what needs to be done, and the PM is brought in to make it real. Now, if you're innovative by nature, you come up with all these good ideas, but you can't keep the internet up, or whatever it is in your particular job, is then what you are is you're a requester. You come up with all these ideas, but no one's going to let you make a decision on it. You need a sponsor somewhere else in the organization to move your ideas forward. And if someone else is sponsoring your ideas, quickly, whose idea does it become? The sponsor's idea. So it's only if you can build your own organizational clout, if you're head of a group, or your own personal clout. And if you can be seen as innovative and creative, which, by the way, the individual contributor level is called either an entrepreneur, an agent of change, a thought leader, any of that stuff. It's only when you can bring together your internal ability to influence others and internal reputation and your ability to innovate and think outside the box that allows you to be a thought leader within your own firm, which, among other things, helps you get promoted. So that's sort of the real-life implementation of this, level 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff. How we doing? Am I too loud, too soft?
Good.
Too fast, too slow?
Good.
Is the weather outside too hot, too cold?
Cold.
Anyway, yeah, someone just moved up here from Baltimore, Where would it go? Oh, here it is. So usually December or so, January, it's like 85 degrees in here. This is just an abnormality. Yeah, I tried to talk him into, he just moved up here a couple of days ago. I tried to talk him into being a Patriots fan, but it didn't really work.
Ravens?
Sorry for picking on you. But anyway, now I'd like everybody to turn to this other document. This has nothing to do with organizations, nothing to do with, let me say, an organizational approach. It also is cross-professional. Enough of the IT stuff. You people that are non-IT oriented, you sick of me talking about IT?
No.
I'm done. But now what this is based on research that my firm has done. In fact, it's going to be a major portion of a book that I'm coming out with this spring called Office Influence. Get what you want from the mailroom to the boardroom. What it's based on is 67 different individual attributes, either about you personally or about your role in the firm, that together form your personal amount of influence within the company, called your influence power rating. Now, a drop of background on this, and then I'm going to talk about this from your perspective, is that what I did was, when we had these 67 attributes defined, we put together a survey in cooperation with the University of Northern Colorado. And we've been giving it out to literally hundreds and hundreds of people, and assessing which of those things are less or more important to people. Like trustworthiness is like off the charts, is one of the highest values. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to talk you through this. And what this is this is actually an instruction book. So I'm going to describe how it works, and you can do it on your own. If you'd like to actually take the survey online of which of these are more important to you, you can go to our website, easy enough to find, and we'll when the book comes out this spring, we'll give you a complimentary copy, Kindle or hard copy. But anyway, what I'd like to do is just move you to page 2 first. I'm sorry, page 3, this one here. And talk through with you for a moment what these attributes are at a high level. I'm not going to go through all 67 of them, but just at a high level what they are to give you an idea for it. And then we'll cut back and I'll explain to you the formula. The first set, again, top of page 3, your personal attributes. Building a reputation of trust and respect. So are you optimistic, open-minded? Do you have confidence in your own work? Things along that line. Are you thought of as a change agent? Vision. Are you opportunistic? Are you motivated to get things done? And then things to get the job done. Do you have the tenacity and the accountability to, when you start something, so people know you're working on this project, then it's going to get done. Do you know anybody out there, do you have any friends or not friends who come up with a great idea, they say, yeah, I'm going to do it, you say, oh, good, I can't wait to see it, and you know damn well that they're never going to get it done. They'll be like, squirrel, they'll be off to the next thing. That doesn't show well for people if they're trying to motivate you to move forward. Next area is your external attributes about, basically your social connections. Your friends, who you like, who you're friends with, and who your enemies are. Because in many cases, the enemies of your enemies are your friend, that whole thing. And then from there, your social connections, many of which, as you're meeting cross-industry people tonight, or from an actions perspective, do you follow through? If I promise you, Dan, that I'm going to do something, do I actually do it? So these are things about you. These are your personal attributes. That's the first of the 5 areas in what will be your influence power rating calculation. Again, you can follow on this if you want. There are extras around. Next is your professional stature. Where you went to college, your job title, things along that line. Want to hear something interesting? One thing that's coming through in the survey from just the hundreds of people that have done it so far, and you might hear different when you see the official one, they'll just sort of going like this through the data, is do you know it was really, really low? It's really high to get you hired, and then really low once you're working internally from a Clout perspective. You know what that is? Degrees. Where you went and the degree that you have. The highest one in that category actually was a combination of, for those in like PMP or business analyst or in regulated industries, was professional certifications. In virtually all cases, it was your experience, what you've learned, and your skill set. By and large, were the highest. But how about awards? Anyone do anything really, really cool? Let's do a shout out. Anybody, been on the Olympics, climbed Mount Everest, run the Boston Marathon?
I've watched the
Marathon?
marathon.
Ran the Grand Canyon.
What?
Ran the Grand Canyon.
Ran?
Ran the Grand Canyon.
Oh, cool. Okay, so now, if anyone is a runner, that's, let me say, painful. So now, if he happens to work with runners, he shouldn't go in and say, well, I did that run, I ran this thing, I climbed that mountain. But if people know that about you, just sort of subtly, it raises your influence. I want to give you an example of this. Is I worked at a company, it doesn't matter which one, but a big one I used to work for. And there was this guy working in client service, just a regular guy, come in, he wave at you, puts the hoodie on, sits down, puts in his headphones, talks on the phone all day, waves on the way out. Just nice guy, everybody likes him, no one really knows too much about him. He takes 3 weeks vacation. And lo and behold, we're watching the Olympics, and guess who won a silver medal in judo? When he got back to the office, do you think he was maybe a little bit more of a celebrity than he was before he left? One of the SVPs at the company was at the Olympics, didn't know he was there till he came back. And imagine this, the senior vice president of the company walking over to somebody in client service and asking him to sign his hat. So these external things can have certain internal advantages also. From there it moves you to basically interpersonal skills. Your emotional intelligence, anyone ever learn about that? If you haven't, you should. That's your homework assignment. Have empathy for other people. Your ability to do active listening and ask good, powerful questions. The conflict resolution, public speaking, having strong business acumen, things along that line. And what all of those come up with is those are your interpersonal skills, interpersonal communication. You don't want to be the best kept secret. Anyone know any techies who are brilliant, but you can say that they're never going to be running the joint because they can't put 3 words in a row that are of value to somebody? That's that. Next is your business skills, team building, running meetings. Think of 2 types of people that that run meetings. You ever think in your head of this person, whenever they run a meeting, it's a train wreck. You're 45 minutes into a 60-minute meeting, you finally got things started and you're the first of 5 bullet points. And then there's other people that, if it's 10 minutes on topic 1, it's 10 minutes on topic 1. That is a skill that looks really easy until you try to do it. In fact, I'm going to give you a tip on this one, whether it's almost anything we're talking about in this category. You ready? Whenever you're involved in something that involves other people, so you're watching a speech, you're negotiating something with a vendor, you're on a teleconference with 5 other folks that you work with, but someone else is running it, your boss is giving a presentation in front of a room, any of those kind of things, someone's running a meeting. Don't only be a participant, right? You're there in the meeting because you're supposed to do something valuable, right? You're supposed to have answers or learn something. Certainly do that, but don't just be a participant. Be an observer. Why does Jennifer's meetings run really, really well, and now it's a train wreck when Mike took her job? Sorry, I couldn't help you.
You can have it back.
But watch it. Why do some speakers great and some speakers, I'll just say, aren't so great? Why do some meetings run well and some don't? Why do some projects run really well and some always go over scope, over budget, and never really meet the objectives? And watch what they do and use the things you're seeing by observing them to enhance your own craft. Anyway, moving forward. The next one is resources, the last of the group here. And what this is these are sort of come in tangible and untangible. The tangible resources are, for example, if you're the one who has the budget for this project, are you going to carry a little bit of clout? You bet you are. How about if you're a jerk and everybody hates you, but you're the one that has all the budget for the project? Are you going to still have some clout? Yes. And then there's intangibles. You know, who are your connections? Who do you know? What information do you have? Are you the firm that has all the IP, or the intellectual property rights? If you're going on a treasure hunt, the person who has the treasure map and that information probably is going to be in a pretty good position from influence. So those are the 5 attributes, or 5 types of attributes. You can look at these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back for a moment to page 3. Now what you can do is, this is a self-assessment for you. Fill out the first column here from a value of 1 to 5. Don't do it now, but sort of on your own, based on how you think you are as these, for all 3 of the pages we just went through. And what these next 3 are, these are going to be for you to develop your career development plan. The first one says, which ones do you wish you could improve? So let's say, for example, I'm looking through, I'm going to go to maybe one of the pages, negotiation. Now let's say I'm a 1 out of 5. Let's say I stink at negotiation. Do I want to improve it? Nah, I don't really care. So then it's not something you're going to want to improve. So anyway, put the, do you really wish you could improve it? Make it better. The middle one on the right-hand side is, what's your priority to improve? Yeah, I'd like to improve my negotiation skills, but it's not as important as me improving my ability to motivate others. So then what you do is you do some math. Any math people in the room? You take column 1 times column 2, and you get, well, guess where you put it? Column 3. Well done. So anyway, with that, then what you do is you just look for the highest numbers, and this is a prioritized list of how you can grow professionally. Now, a couple more things here. What I'd like you to do now, and then I'll tie the whole formula together, is there is something in a box on page 8. All this influence stuff is cool, but the truth is that all influence is situational. I'm going to give you an example of this using a really good football team like the Patriots. But let's say, for example, that you're a brain surgeon, but know nothing about football. So you're a brain surgeon, highly regarded, highly awarded, and all that stuff, right? Everything we talked about, you're right up there. Now let's get into the situational thing. Your situational knowledge. You're talking about brain surgery. You're going to be pretty highly respected. How about if you're talking to someone who's going to be operated on by this doctor? Is that person going to really be motivated to listen to what this brain surgeon said? You bet you are. That's like the ideal type of influence. He says, don't drink coffee for 3 days. This guy's never going to drink coffee again. But then he goes home, hangs around with his high school buddies on the weekend, deciding who the best quarterback is in the NFL. He knows nothing about football. What is his level of influence available in that situation? 0. His friends, well, I'm getting there, you're right. His friends are going to say, yeah, you don't know anything about football. That's the guy who says height in the back, right? You're going to have no influence in that conversation until it turns to the concussion protocol. And all of a sudden, the same group of people, but the topic changed. All of a sudden, he's the highest influencer in the room. This is what situational influence are. Your ability to influence others in any one particular situation is based on the combination of all of those attributes that we went through, all of, this stuff, and as it relates to your topical knowledge or situational knowledge and your situational audience. Now, let's go back to page 1, the one that I skipped all along. And then I'm almost done. We've got another minute or 2. You see this mathematical formula in the middle? This is tough for some people, because do you know that 4 out of every 3 people have trouble with fractions? Someone will use that. But anyway, there's another one like that. What is it? It's there are 2 types of people in this world. Those that can extrapolate from incomplete data.
When you go to a fork in the road, take it.
I'll use that. Anyway, this formula in the middle here. This is how all this stuff ties together. Is that the first where it says